are back. So this is another, I guess, another figure review. We all know the basic fins of figures if you've watched Batman March and all that. For anyone who's new, this is a fin that a lot of toy reviewers do, basically. But I'm not a toy reviewer. I just wanted to give my, I think the word is synopsis on what I think on the these toys. Yeah, so I've got an idea of what I want to go through and what the differences are from the original release, as I'm a massive Dalek prop fan, as you know, so I'll know all the little key details. I don't want to be a know-it-all, but yes. So when collecting, I did start out with, I can't remember which one it was, but I did start out with, which one? I think it was the Daleks Master Plan that I finally got my hands on, the History of the Daleks sets. I did want the first one, the Dead Planet ones, and the movie ones, even though they're not movie ones, but they are. And yeah, but I've missed out because RB&M is absolutely shocking. So I got two versions of this. I got basically two sets because you get two Daleks in them. You get the gold leader and you get a grey drone. So I got two because I was like, well, Day of the Daleks only had 3 props in the story, so I have got an extra left over. And to show, here he is. The wheels are still on this one. I like to take my wheels off. It's just a thing that I like to do with Daleks. I don't like them rolling about, and I do like them being close to the floor or shelf, and that way they don't move. So there's a few things. We'll start with, of course, the box, because I mean, it's boring, but it's what every toy review does. So the box is just basic, bog standard, and say goodbye to it because we're no longer having these. They've doubled down on the fin where you would have the inside have some sort of display, cost-wise, and so on and so forth. So the box, the idea is just to show off what it is. I do like the way they're packaged, but like I mentioned about the bobbleheads, I think that is the superior way of boxing any item. It's Day of the Daleks 1972. You know, if you want to watch a proper in-depth review, and then, you know, jargon on the back of the fin, and the information on the props, which I'm a big fan of, and where I'm going to go into detail about these. So very bog standard. So there is quite a lot to say on this. I've got a thing that kind of ticks me off about them, so I'll go into detail about that and why I like these especially, even though I'm an Imperial fan. So we'll start off with the Goons, I think they're called, or the other saying. Yeah, so these, they're brilliant for what they are. The paint jobs are absolutely spot on if you're seeing it on camera. The one thing, another detail, the one thing that I love about them, I love the metallic grey. It's a nice contrast, especially up against the Imperials, which is why I love them, and the gold leader. Another thing that this is the first time they've released gunmetal grey Daleks. We've been waiting years, I do remember that. So the thing that I like about it, they did do the base in gloss. There is a reason for this, and it's the 2-tier design. So in the story, me gonna go off on a rant here because I love Dalek props so much, and I know I'm that sad of knowing. In the story, so Day of the Daleks was the first episode to transmit in colour for the Daleks, basically. I showed the camera there. So they basically, if you didn't know, with the Dalek props, Shawcraft originally made 4 Dalek props made from fiberglass. The Daleks in the show from then on, from 1963, would use these same props over and over again, more or less. New Daleks would come into the mix, another 2 from Invasion Earth, if I'm getting that right, a few from a stage play by Shawcraft, and then that would be it, more or less. Here and there would be oddball Daleks, so there'd be a little differences. But yeah, there were basically 4 main Daleks. Shawcraft kept one of them, and the BBC, I think the BBC, kept 3 of them. That's why in the story there's only 3 of the props. hence the reason there only being the two drones and the gold leader off to the side. So what they did was, when it was transmitted in colour, it's kind of funny, it's ironic that they went from silver and blue. Of course no one knew this until behind the scenes pictures, because Doctor Who was in black and white then. They went from bright colours to then dull colours, and then of course the gold leader being the leader instead of black. I think the reason, if I'm getting it right, because Terry Nation wanted to take the Daleks to America and do bigger things, hence the big movies and colourful Daleks, but it never came to be, and he wanted to make it so it was distinguishable from his American Daleks, from, if it were America, he was going to do it, to the TV counterparts for the BBC. So he said, right, I want colourful Daleks, but not word for word, I want colourful Daleks for my spin-off, you know, their own thing, not in Doctor Who, and I want the BBC so we can tell which ones are which. So Doctor Who went for gunmetal grey, which would be the bog standard for the next few years, and then it would be grey, dirty grey, glossy grey, you know, so on until Remembrance. Different types of greys over the years, which I do like the gunmetal grey more, I will be honest. It's metal, they look like metal, even though they are just plastic, not just the toys, the props itself, and they just work really well. Which is what I think they've lost over time. Gold works really well, hence the reason with bronze Daleks over the years. But I think gunmetal grey is where they need to go back to. So yes, so where I'm going with this, with the gloss. The thing that they're trying to copy here, or emulate, like I say, these were 60s props originally. They then added the oval. The pupil was put in since Evil of the Daleks due to the human factor Daleks. Basically they put a dot in the centre so they could tell which Daleks were the human ones before the war happened, if you know what Evil of the Daleks is, which was originally the last Dalek story to be, and then, like I say, Terry Nation would take off and do other things. But Day of the Daleks happened and they wanted to bring them back. They also have, if you're a big fan like me, you're not going to know this, but they actually, the 70s started using off-the-shelf items, so then they started using for their dome lights, on the real props, Mini Cooper headlamps. Don't know why, but it doesn't detract from the props. I mean, they have a bloody sink plunger, for God's sake. And mesh, you know, diamond mesh, so, and rivets as well. Real life items, sort of thing. But yeah, so what they did was, because they were going to be on not much in studio anymore, they needed them to go about. Daleks tended, the 60s had quite thin bases, so about 50, 70 mil, something like that. Then they wanted to hire them up to make them a little easier when travelling. So they then lifted them because of the bigger casters, but they needed to make sure you couldn't see. Now if you see in the episode, the original 1972 one, you will see a few shots of the casters being shown. What they did, in order to try and hide them, I believe, might not be 100% true, but it is some sort of flimsy material. It's not at the point of rubber, because that would be a bit expensive, but what they use, I believe, is just bin liners. If you look in the episode, look at the prop history, that is more or less what they used. So that's what they're more or less going with the glossy look and the two-tier step design, even though that wasn't the case, but it just gives that look, which is why I like the Daleks. The one thing, now I'm going to go off onto details on why these Daleks, and they're brilliant, don't get me wrong, they are absolutely gorgeous for what they are, for the price, and they're the most accurate Daleks that we've got today in toys. Eagle Moss, the company that does like resin, but I think they've gone bankrupt or something recently, the recording of this video, make them, you know, more accurate to the fins, but they are a lot smaller and they're not articulating like these. Whereas these move, you know how figures work. So yeah, the things that detract from these builds, because they only have more or less one mould, reason why a lot of Daleks are not accurate, and reason why I'm not going to really maybe not collect the Imperials, because they're just not accurate, and Shawcraft are very different from the 1980s Daleks. So yeah, the things that detract, but again, they only have one mould, more or less. They can change things like the eye stalk, the plunger, the gun, and stuff like, and the slats and stuff like that, which they have done over time. But the one thing that always ticks me off is the bumps are too hemispherical. They're meant to be a lot more like a teardrop design, as I mentioned before, which is what the bobbleheads got right, whereas these don't get right, which is a shame because they were so close. They got everything else right. The Shawcraft body type is there. It's just a shame that they put the really big bumps on when they shouldn't be. They should be more flat, basically. The neck. Now, this is, of course, how thin they've done it. They've done a good job, but the Shawcraft Daleks, the original ones, instead of them having just one dowel design, they had three basically glued together, and this was called trefoil or something like that back in the old day. And it was like in a triangle formation, but three dowels, basically like Predator's view from the film Predator, if you know what I mean. Basically, rods glued together. Again, that would probably cost quite a bit of money, and they've already got moulds. Due to the recording of this, with the other sets, they have now remoulded the slats, so they've had to do something there. Either the mould has just gone, and they've just had to create new stuff. They've made new domes. So a lot of things are changing. Another thing to note, gun boxes on these Daleks, only a few of them have this where it has a flat top design. Most gun boxes go in at an angle because it's just a box basically screwed and glued at an angle. But it doesn't detract, and these are like movie Dalek gun boxes. Reason for it was just easier on the moulding process for the company. They kept updating their Daleks since 1965 as they wanted to make them a bit more easier on production. The colour scheme is dead on, I would say. It might not be dead on, but it's dead on to what you can get. The blue is so much closer than ever before, and this is the blue they should have used. And it's pretty much, yeah, just pretty much there. So one thing that I've got to detract from this, because they are great, great. So mine, for some reason, it happens all the time. They've got that many moulds. It happens. There's a tiny detail between these two. This one has a much more broader gun, whereas this one has the standard 60, no, not standard 60s, late standard 60s gun, where it's a lot thinner. We call it the Imperial type because they're quite thin. I don't know why this is, but yeah, they both have two completely different guns. They're both painted in gunmetal grey, but yeah, they're very, very wide for some reason. But it's not that noticeable. I don't know what it is, but yeah. So that's the only thing that detracts from these two. The leader, however, much more improvement, and I have got another figure to show the what's changed over the years. So again, they've got the blue right on the eye stalk. They've now finally painted the mesh gold, which was somewhat a staple of the gold leader. Every company that ever got hold of the rights of the Daleks always did the gold leader with black mesh. I don't know why that is. It's just one of those things of why did they keep doing it when they have reference photos. But they finally got it fixed. They've done it. They've done the gun bowl right compared to the past. They had them gold, both of them gold, when it's only the gun that has the gold bowl and this one has the silver one. And then the other little detail that they've done so well, which is a tiny little difference, but it does add to it, is if you look at the fender, the top of it actually has gold, which is accurate to the actual story, and the same for the gunmetal grey, but you can't see it very well. The reason behind this is, prop-wise, when they were painting the Daleks, they basically removed all the hemispheres or even masked them up or something if they were fiberglassed in. Hence the reason why the whole Daleks are basically one solid colour. They sprayed the entire fin down, but they must have taped and masked the bottom of the base, sprayed over the top, and then peeled away the tape, and the top of the base had overspray on it, which it does look nice, and it is, like I say, this is what they've got right about these. These are the closest we've ever got. Will they update them again and make them even more accurate? I doubt it. This is probably the best we are ever going to get, and they do look great on camera. I've seen on Project Dalek when someone made figures about yay big, and there were 3 of them, and they looked dead on because he built them by scratch. This almost looks like that because of how close they have got the props, and the toys I should say, but they are a lovely addition. I'm not a big fan on Shawcraft Daleks, but I do like them in some cases. Gunmetal Grey, Death to the Daleks. What's another good Dalek design? The 60s Daleks, the very first ones I do love, and the Chase Daleks. The other Daleks, and of course the Imperials, are my all-time favourite. So going from that, I'm really trying to not hold my breath, but I'm ranting on so much. Going from that, staying on with the leader, so that's all my details and thoughts on that. I'm going to bring something from way back from 2008, but I will say but because I have messed with it and tinkered with it over the years, but it will give you an idea of what the original release was, which wasn't that great, I will be honest. It's very dusty and it's got broken over the years, but this is what the 2008 release was, more or less. So we'll take this with a grain of salt, or a pinch of salt. The colour has gotten a... So what I'll note, I used a pencil to draw in the pupil to make it silver for some reason. I've changed the appendages around and used Sharpie on the lower band and slats. This was meant to be inspired when I got bored. It's just a little quick job and it got broken ages ago, sadly. And it has the 1-tier base design. I damaged this a long time ago when it were on a shelf. But this was the original 2008, or is it 2008? It was, no, maybe 2009, Wave 2 I think it was, in fact, I could be wrong on that. Wave 1 didn't have a gold leader, but they did, it's old, 2010 levels, kind of old, 2010, 2022. But yeah, blue is a lot more darker. This has the actual mesh black, like I say, they kept doing that. Don't know why they did that, but that's more or less what they did. But it was a step up over time from the moulds. They were getting gradually better. But this is like what I mean. There is a difference. This is a lot more golder and more shiny. This, however, I mean, like I say, it's not that shiny if I'm honest. You can see the difference there. But yeah, 2010 and 2022, there is a massive difference. So they have stepped up their game over time. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts. Now, will I collect any more? Oh, and this also has what I was meaning with the broader gun. For some reason they have a really... You can see that it's really broad compared to most Dalek guns. And this was from a Renegade Dalek. I've had that many Daleks, a lot of them are broken and destroyed over time. But, like I say, I've got a cabinet now to the side with starting to collect them. But yeah, that's my pretty much overview on these Daleks. I do like to keep them in storage, like I say. I'm not much of a collector, but I am starting to collect again because I'm a Dalek person. But that's pretty much it on my thoughts on them. I would like them to be a bit more accurate, like I say, with the rods being the free rod design, and the hemispheres. But we're never going to get that because they've already got them old. It's, you know, they're sorted. People are buying them off the shelf. Why would they need to change them when they serve a purpose? Unlike us, to us die-hard Dalek fans, we would like them to be slightly more modified, but that's going to cost a lot of money. The thing that I'm more or less looking, fingers crossed, hoping, is, well, if they do the, I did it again, if they will do the Imperial Daleks, justice, the 80s Daleks, if they finally pull their finger out, there will be a lot of fans like myself who would love to buy them. There is a massive difference. I could go on why, and in fact I might show why. So do excuse it, it's old, it's really old. This is a resin cast that I got from Ireland years ago. But to give you an idea of what I mean, the difference between Shawcraft and an 80s Dalek is if you put them side by side, you can slightly see the difference in design. The Imperials are a lot taller and they have much more narrow skirts and shoulders. They're a lot rounder than the previous Daleks, and I don't know why, but they are just my favourite Daleks ever. They have wider plates here than these Daleks, narrower back sections, and not as flared out skirts as with the Shawcraft, whereas these are a lot more upright. And that's what I mean. I would love them if they would do this, but I don't think we ever will, and it's up to fans like ourselves to create 3D models and 3D print, and then, like I say, this was done by someone who took a file, made a mould, and made resin casts. It does articulate on the top. This isn't about this Dalek, by the way. I just wanted to show the difference, why I would love the 80s Daleks. You can do a lot with these, but they won't. They just basically took this and repainted it white and did a few modifications here and there and called it a day, when they should just go full out and do this, because they know there's people like me, die-hard fans, who will get these Daleks, but we're not getting them for some reason. But it's thanks to fans, and to finally own something like this, thanks to fans who, you know, mech things. It's just a shame they're not, to say it's going to sound sad, it's a shame that they don't articulate, you know, like normal Daleks, where you can pose them in any position you want, and all this does is, well, a head turn. You can't move the arms, you can't move the eye. The head does come off, it's just done by a magnet. But it is a nice piece of merchandise. But yeah, that is roughly... I'm not the greatest at doing videos, I'm staying on topic, I go off on different things. That's my ADHD just all the time now. But yeah, this is an overview on the Day of the Daleks Squadron. See ya.